Hi everyone, this is Rachel from Podcasa Bonita fame, and we are back at you with another Q&A video.
Yeah, because you guys keep asking us questions, and we're really excited about that, because this is honestly one of my favorite things to do on this channel, because y'all, I know we say it like every time we do a Q&A video, like all 2 times we've done it, but y'all asked some really interesting, thought-provoking questions. No joke. Some of these we had to actually dig down and do research a little bit to really kind of come up with answers for. We had to deep dive within ourselves to really think of some good answers.
And within the internet.
But yeah, we love these. Thank you again for sending them in. Like, without fail, we have like our faithful. We have a new commenter too. We're excited. Like, more people. Like, do not be afraid. Ask us literally any question. We will answer it. Probably way more than what's needed. But
speaking of our new commenter, let's just jump right in with their question. Cheddarhead7 asked, favorite season and why? Well, just a simple run-of-the-mill question, right?
Right? I know. Such a loaded question here. No joke. This took us forever. It's kind of like an existential kind of question for us. We have to think about ourselves, and we had to weigh. We had to go by the season as a whole and not individual episodes, because really, for us, the golden years are 5 through 14. Season 5, which is a really awesome span of great episodes. Props to Matt and Trey and the writers for giving us that much really good content. I wish it stayed, but it was really difficult. So we kind of had it narrowed down between 7 different seasons. But ultimately, both of us kind of came onto a consensus of our favorite season just by how good each episode is. If the amount of stinkers that you had versus the really, really good episodes. And what was that season, Rachel?
Shirley and I both picked season 11 as our favorite season, which is funny because we both kind of picked it independently of each other. Because we were kind of talking and throwing ideas back and forth, but we both decided season 11 is my pick. Oh, yours too? Okay.
And the thing is my absolute favorite, all of my favorite episodes aren't in this season. They're scattered amongst a couple of different seasons. But when we looked at it retrospectively, we found that every single, this season has not only a lot of really iconic episodes, but just about every single episode we really do enjoy. But I will say, this one and season 14 are especially close. They're pretty much almost interchangeable for me. 11 and 14 really to me are mwah, perfection. Chef kiss.
Yeah, season
14 just for the Mysterion trilogy alone.
Yeah, season 14 was definitely a front runner, but we both decided on season 11. And I guess I'll share our criteria for that. Shirley kind of mentioned it, where we didn't want to just pick a favorite season this season's okay, but it has my favorite episode in it. Because that, I felt wasn't a fair ranking of the seasons. And so I think we both kind of picked season 11 because this freaking season has banger after banger. It does not slow down. There's so many freaking episodes in this season that are iconic. We have the Imagination Land trilogy. We have The List. We have With Apologies to Jesse Jackson. We have Night of the Living Homeless. More Crap.
One of my favorite episodes.
Yes, Cartman sucks. Guitar Queero.
Me over the limit, I guess, because in comparison, the reason why I chose this one slightly over season 14 was because apart from the Mysterion trilogy, there were a couple episodes in 14 that are just okay, but really season 11 has honestly, it was so difficult. They're just banging ass seasons, in this show, so it was really hard to pick one that was like just universally like really really good between each episode.
Yeah, agreed. Originally, when I first went through it, I was thinking season 8 or 7. I don't know why I said it like that.
Same here.
And then I was thinking, oh, it's got to be like 10 through 14 somewhere. So those are definitely like the high points for us. Although, I mean, 9's probably pretty good too.
Right, it's really really difficult. I honestly could easily pick it. I could easier pick out a least favorite season than I could favorite season, because there are so many golden episodes sprinkled amongst them, and it was just really just kind of the golden age for South Park.
Yeah, what it really came down to was I kind of had a few seasons that I was looking at, and it was just a matter of subtraction. If season 11, I'm like, okay, D-Yikes is the only episode I'm not super crazy about in that season. And the other 13 are great. And so the other seasons I was looking at, I'm like, oh, okay, well, these have a few more duds than season 11 did. Season 11 is much more consistently great.
Exactly. So, very, very, very close competition. But 14 and 11 are really up there for me. But yeah, let us know what your favorite season is, because it could be something totally different. Because there's just so many good episodes sprinkled along there. So if you asked us to pick a favorite episode, that'd probably be almost even more difficult for me. But
well, that episode or podcast may be coming soon, where we talk about our favorite episodes. So
I'm glad you caught on to what I was spoon feeding you. Rachel.
I want to make sure they understood.
So, let's move on to the next question.
Alright, well, that's all that Chatterhead7 gave us, which, that's totally fine. That was a loaded question anyway. Rocky Stone... Yeah, Rocky Stone comes in with two questions.
MVP. Oh my god, like, for real. I get so excited when I see Rocky Stone comment, because I know we've got content to tie us over.
She, or he, I guess we still don't know the gender. Their first question, are what are your headcanons for Tweek and Craig as adults? Do you want to start, Shirley?
You know what, I'll go ahead and start, because really I can summarize my headcanon with just one word, which is gay. I think they will, like, continue to date, like, maybe just, like, never marry. I could totally see them just cohabiting for like the rest of their lives. And I can also see them childless. I think they would like have like stripe number 58 at some point, like in their lives. As for careers, this is something that I really had to kind of think about. I would love the idea of like them just owning their own like gay coffee shop. I would love for them to just own like a little small business with just like, it's just hella gay and like cottagecore shit, like just let but Tweek probably, I could see him almost like being in spite, like being a competitor to his own family's like coffee business.
That's funny. I never thought of that.
Creek Coffee, like, hello, that's like the perfect coffee shop name. I don't know why that was like the first thing. I could also maybe see, Craig is, I think it would be really funny because he's very stoic. I think it would be really funny if he worked something that like involved being with people a lot, or he has to like manage people, but he does it with like the minimal amount of like verbal discipline. All he has to do is just like flip somebody off and be like, boss says for us to get back to work, on. Like, I just thought that'd be really funny. I could also see Tweek as being like really creative as well, because Tweek himself, like, especially like in the episode Tweek and Craig, where he thinks he can't really act, but then he like outperforms everyone. I think he'd have like a lot of creative outlets and everything. I think he'd like to make things, like him like running a fucking Etsy shop or something. Like, I don't know why. They're very specific headcanons for me.
Mine are kind of similar, kind of different. I agree with you in that they are definitely, like, endgame. I feel like this is the one couple that I'm like, nope, they just are together forever. They're perfect for each other. They're gay always. I also agree that I don't think they would have kids. I can't really picture it. I can picture them having, like, a ton of animals, specifically guinea pigs. I feel like they would love that, but, yeah, childless for sure, I think. As far as careers go...
I mean, I could... Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, like, I wouldn't 100% be opposed to them, like, if they did, I'd say they would, like, adopt or whatever. But I really see them as more of, like, pet parents.
Same.
You know, like having little guinea pigs in strollers and shit, you know.
Right, and they post, or no, Craig definitely, like, posts on Facebook, and he's, like, taking the kids out for a walk or something. And he, like, does it on purpose to, like, make his other friends who were parents, like, mad.
Exactly. He would, but in a way, he'd be, like, totally serious about it, too.
Oh, yeah. He's, like, ironically, but not ironically at all.
Like, they would have so many pets, but, like, probably, like, unconventional pets. You'd have, like, a Komodo dragon or like, a monitor what the fuck are they called? The bearded dragon.
I could see
I would love
that.
for them to have, like, exotic pets or some shit. Maybe, like, I don't know. I love that. Or cats. Maybe they don't have a lot of cats.
Exotic pets and cats, that's very gay of them.
Maybe that's just the gay in me, but, you know, I gotta assume there'll be cats there.
Career-wise, I agree with you, Shirley, that Tweek would be more creative, because I like to go off of what we've seen of them in the show. So I like to think that Tweek is, like, part-time traveling, like, actor. He, like, does theater shows a lot, and I think he also does part-time boxing champion, and he's, like, really good at both of them. And yes, and I picture that they, like, travel a lot, and then Craig, like, comes along, and his trick, for me, Craig's whole thing is he's, like, a videographer. He shoots, like, documentaries and shorts and everything, and he also, like, a part of it is that he, like, documents all of his boyfriend's, like, matches and plays and everything.
He's probably, like, a famous, like, Instagram photographer or some shit. Like, people want him to hire for his weddings, but he's like, I only take pictures of guinea pigs and my boyfriend. Sorry.
Yeah, I love that for them. I definitely see them as like, traveling adventurous gays, and then maybe they come back and settle down in South Park, and, like, Tweek coaches boxing or something, and then...
Oh, I could totally picture a buff Tweek.
Oh, like, yeah. I love, for me, peak older Tweek is, like... He's definitely, like, buff and, like, ripped and way more, like, tough and threatening than Craig is. But he also, like, fucking loves the theater, and he loves, like, gay shit. So I love just the idea of him being both, like, masculine and feminine, and he doesn't give a shit.
Basically, I would still love Tweek to have a little bit of his, you know, still be a character that kind of exemplifies anxiety, because I like that there's a little bit of representation there. And I also kind of like the idea of this huge buff, like, masculine dude, like, kind of being a little bit afraid. And then the beanpole is just like, shut up. You're fine, you big baby.
Yeah, I love the idea of, like, Tweek definitely has, like, a Tasmanian devil type persona when he's boxing. That's, like, his whole thing. And in my mind, there's, like, a whole storyline where, like, Craig thinks something's fishy is going on with, like, the Tweek Bros coffee, and he, like, enlists Kenny's help, and then there's, like, drama, and then it comes out that, but that's just my own, like, it's, like, what I think about at night before I go to bed.
Like, I love the idea of them, like, traveling, but at the same time also, like, just having a tiny little gay coffee shop. Like, I know that's so cliche, but I definitely see them as being together forever, you know?
Yeah, same.
But, like, I think they would probably have, like, a not an unconventional kind of thing where they would choose to cohabit rather than to marry. I think that's, like, a very Tweek and Craig thing to do.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, because in my whole personal headcanon, there's, like, a whole drama conflama where Craig, like, exposes Tweek's parents for, like, feeding people meth, and it's, like, a whole thing. So in my head, I'm like, they kind of don't want anything to do with coffee after that, but I see where you're coming from.
Well, just write a fan fiction about it. Why don't
I should, honestly. Okay, you ready for the next question?
Yeah, let's go on. I could talk about that one forever, and I'll probably come up with more ideas about them, like, much later on after we stop recording, of course. But.
No, I love those gays. Also, hold on, I also love the idea of, like, Stan and Craig in high school, they both work at, like, Big Gay Al's pet sanctuary, and there's, like, a bunch of, like, office shenanigans, because they, like, don't get along at all.
Yes, I love the idea. And I kind of love the idea of them still being, like, pet parents. And, you know, we haven't really talked about, like, them in high school. Usually when we talk about, like, older character headcanons, it's usually, like, by the point they're, like, in college or out of college. But high school, I would say Tweek is really coming into his self. Like, he's starting to become that buff, like, comfortable person.
Yeah, and that's why I love the idea of Craig, like, definitely, like, wanting to document all of, like, Tweek's achievements, because I feel like Craig is such a source of, like, confidence for Tweek.
Oh, yeah. And Craig would probably do really well, especially with, like, documenting and all that. He would do well in a job where he could just, like, kind of be his own boss. You know, he doesn't have to deal with a lot of people.
Yes, and I also see Craig as, like, definitely the kind of guy that he's like, I never leave my apartment with all my guinea pigs except to go to my store, go to my job where I'm, like, a computer technician, and I sit alone in a room for 8 hours, and I go back to my apartment with my boyfriend.
That's basically it, and they're perfectly happy.
That's literally Craig. Like,
I know. I love how we say, okay, let's move on, and then we immediately go back to talk about it.
But it's Tweek and Craig, come on.
It's our favorites.
Okay, let's go to the next question for real. Okay, Rocky Stone asks, how do you think Wendy would react if she saw Stan and Kyle fan art?
See, when I first heard this question, I was immediately like, you know what? I feel like, because the thing is, in the Tweek and Craig episode, she's the one who introduces the art to the audience and everything, and she's, like, pretty, like, neutral about it. I feel like she would have a similar reaction as to how we had canon how Kyle would react, where he's he's pretty uncomfortable. You know, I think she would be really uncomfortable, but she doesn't want to step on any toes, and she doesn't want to seem like she's insensitive. So I think she would try to, like, under the table do something to kind of, like, sabotage, or maybe, like, insert herself into in between the boys, like, always try and, like, hang out with Stan and everything, just to, like, kind of assert herself, you know, and try and be as subtle as possible so she doesn't seem like she's, you know, offended or anything, because she doesn't want to, you know, be, like, culturally insensitive or whatever. So I would see Wendy, like, secretly, like, dying inside, like, oh my god, fuck no, my two boyfriends, they can't be boyfriends together, but also, like, kind of try and hide her feelings about it so she doesn't seem like a dick.
I think for the most part I agree, except I think that you're kind of ignoring Wendy's streak of being very jealous over the course of the series when, like, Stan is, I guess, interested in another girl, or even just comments that he likes another girl, you know, things like that. So I mostly agree with you. I guess, I don't know, maybe the way she would go about it is a little, I don't know, a little different, but...
See, that's why I think she would insert herself into literally everything.
Yes, I think,
always,
yeah.
Like if Stan and Kyle are like, we're just going to go play video games, she's like, cool, I'll join. Cool,
yes, I think that this would definitely be a turning point for her and Stan. And I don't think that it would be because she's actually worried that, like, Stan's gay with Kyle. Like, I don't think she thinks that. I think she would just be threatened by, like, their intimacy or, like, their closeness.
I think she would be threatened by, like, how other people perceive her. It's like, ha, Wendy's a lady cuck. Like, I think she'd be more worried a little bit about her image and Stan's image together and be like, well, are you guys even still really together? You know, I feel like it would be a threat to, like, not their actual relationship, but to how their relationship is perceived by other people.
All right, so that's it for Rocky Stone's questions. Do you want to go on to Jack Lucas?
Let's do it.
All right, so this one from Jack is kind of similar to the one we just answered, which is, how do you think Cartman and Kyle would react to Kyle and Cartman fan art? We get a lot of these type of questions.
They're all from different people, so this is like a big subject. We're becoming like a reaction channel.
I guess.
I love that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can start making money like the Fine Bros or something. No, this one, Cartman 100% would use it to his advantage.
Yep.
I don't even have to think about it. I don't even have to question it. He'd use it towards his advantage. I don't even think he'd be outraged, because he would have some sort of creepy-ass plan for it. Or he'd be involved somehow.
Plus, he knows how much this would, make Kyle uncomfortable, too, and so he would, take advantage of that.
This one, in this instance, as opposed to Stan and Kyle would immediately just be like, no. Look, no. He's a literal Nazi. I'm a Jew. I'd love to see him react to the actual fan art that has them portrayed as not great images.
I don't want Kyle to ever know of that. I feel like Kyle would react very similarly to in the Cartman Finds Love episode, because this is borderline happened in an episode. This is kind of a subplot.
I love how we're discussing something that's already happened.
Alright, so you want to go to the next episode? Or not next episode. Next question. That one was kind of one and done. Okay, this one's kind of a relevant one, kind of topical. What do you think the four boys would be doing during quarantine?
Maybe learning how to masturbate.
First of all, how dare you? They already know. Kenny for sure knows how.
I'm just trying to stay in character here, okay? But...
Okay, I'm just gonna dive in then. Kenny would definitely be jerking off. A lot.
I feel like, especially during this time, Kyle would be extremely neurotic. He would be like, wash your damn hands. He would wear a mask, in his own house. He'd be a little bit more, neurotic. And he'd be very topical and vocal about it as well. If he saw somebody, out in public who wasn't wearing a mask or anything, or seeing, a certain state that opening up, or certain areas that are, opening up business, he would, lose his mind. He'd be like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Kyle's definitely, a germaphobe, so I can see that. As far as what he's doing in his spare time, I definitely think Kyle would, he'd be staying updated, like you say. He'd be, on Twitter, watching the news, being very involved. And I also think he would want to be, productive in some way. He'd want to, get a head start on his homework. He'd want to finish that puzzle or some shit that he never finished. He would be bugging Ike all the time to hang out. So just stuff like that. Because he would still be talking to his friends a little bit. But I can see Kyle as being very more this is a time we should take advantage of to kind of be productive and spend time with our family.
Mm-hmm. Stan, on the other hand, I feel a little bit more lax than Kyle. I think he would try to be a little bit more logical with it and be like, well, look at the survival rate and everything. But at the same time, he'd look at somebody like Grandpa Marsh. I think he'd be a little bit more concerned for the people who, actually maybe have it. Stan's kind of difficult to pinpoint in this one because he could kind of go either way.
It's funny because when I'm answering these questions, I'm like, what are they physically doing? What are their pastimes? What are their hobbies? And you're like, how do they react to this politically? I wasn't thinking about that at all.
I care a lot about it. Leave me alone. I physically, with Stan, I feel like he would really want to try. He would be the person setting up all the Zoom calls and everything, and be like, okay, let's find a way to hang out.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, because to me, Stan is a very social creature, and that's very obvious to me in the episodes. So he would be the one who's coordinating Zoom calls, he's trying to, get Kyle out of the house. He's very dependent upon his friends and his social life, and it's very much tied to his, mental well-being. I think he would also be walking his dog a lot. He gets to spend more time indoors with the pup. He'd probably be Probably be avoiding Randy.
I feel like Stan would be a little bit, like, weirdly happy. I feel like he'd be kind of conflicted. He's like, wow, I'm being so productive right now. Because I feel like some of us have had that experience where it's like, wow, I've had time to, you know, work on things or focus on things in the house. And then you feel kind of bad about being productive in a time where it's for not very great reasons. Cartman would probably start, like, a podcast, or like two assholes would, you know, like any asshole with free time would.
Real quick though, just jumping back to Stan, I think I kind of disagree. I feel like Stan would be that person who's like the opposite of Kyle. He's like, oh, this is all the stuff I could be doing, and then he just doesn't do any of it.
Okay, that is true. That is very much a Stan move.
Yeah, I agree that Cartman would be like starting a podcast, or he would
be profiting off of this.
He would definitely also be like protesting it, right? He's like, I want KFC and I want it now.
I bet he would be so bad. I bet like a local, like a KFC would close down and he would lose his gun.
That's like the breaking point for him.
He'd be the only one like protesting and everything and like all that. And he'd be the person who wouldn't wear a mask and everything and saying like, it's all fake. It's all fake.
Yeah. As far as Kenny, I mean, obviously, yeah, he'd be jerking off, but he'd be doing other stuff. I think he'd be hanging out with his sister Karen a lot, obviously, probably trying to shield her. Because one thing we don't talk about is kids with abusive home lives having to be stuck at home a lot.
I think I think he would have like a Mysterion arc with it, where he's just like, well, everybody's in their homes right now who's out causing crime. I think he would probably like, you know, have to try and find a way to use Mysterion somehow with.
I think Kenny would try to help in some way, whether Mysterion is involved or not.
Yeah, but I you know me, whenever Mysterion can be in something, I'm going to put him there.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Like, I feel like he would probably have, like, an internal conflict with, like, well, everybody's home and not doing crime. What am I supposed to do with myself now?
I think he'd also be conflicted because, one, COVID isn't, like, a threat to him. He'll just come back. But I feel like he would have a lot of guilt knowing that maybe if I get it, maybe I gave it to Karen or I gave it to someone else.
Yeah.
All right, you want to go?
Dread.
Yeah. You want to go to the next question?
Let's do it.
Jack asks, how do you think Wendy would interact with the rest of the Marsh family?
See, Wendy, I feel like, is very much going to try and be like that model girlfriend. But I feel like she would go in assuming one thing, but I mean, I think everybody at this point, you know, it is a small town, so people already know each other pretty well, just because everybody's constantly interacting with one another. But I think, like, maybe in more like a meet the parents kind of setting, she would try her best to be kind of like that model girlfriend, you know, and not try and cause any distress. But I feel like the second she sees, like, Randy shenanigans, she'd go up to Stan and be like, are you not fucking, like, seeing this? Like, or she'd go up to Sharon and be like, excuse me, like, do you not see what your husband is doing? She'd, like, go off on a feminist rant towards Sharon and be like, you are better than this. Like, and she would probably dissect Shelley down into, like, peel back all the layers of Shelley and be like, I think you're aggressing because you feel like you're not getting the attention, so you're acting out as a point and you're pushing people away when really you just want people, like, to notice you. And, like, she would, like, be your therapist or something. I think she would go in to, like, that Marsh family trying to be, like, and not to cause any drama. But then the second she sees how dysfunctional it is, she'd pop off.
Yeah, because, like you said, this small town, they know everyone. But, like, she really has no idea. The level of dysfunction and tomfoolery that is, like, the Marsh family. I think, in general, she and Sharon would probably get along pretty well. I think they're pretty similar. I like your take on her and Shelley. I love the idea of her just breaking Shelley down. And at first, Shelley's, like, pissed. And then she, like, freaking loves Wendy and, like, would die for her. And yeah, I definitely think that Wendy would, like, dislike Randy. But it's kind of a tough situation too, because I could definitely see Wendy kind of like making a stink out of it and like trying to like you guys not seeing this, and then Stan has to kind of be like, this is just my family dynamic. I can't have you like making a scene every time you come over. This is just how it's like. So that's kind of an interesting thing they could go through.
See, Stan would make like similar comments, but he's very passive with it. Yeah, where he's always kind of like making a passive aggressive comment about his family. He doesn't actually try to do anything to stop. Like he makes up a song about it or whatever. Wendy would actively be like, no, let's get them into family counseling. Let's get them into couples therapy. And he'd be like, what's that supposed to do? It's like, well, it's helping more than you just making passive comments, Stan.
Well, for me, I definitely see Wendy's like taking progressive action, because she reminds me a lot of Kyle, where it's like, okay, let's go, let's fix the problem right now. But I feel like Stan is a little more realistic, where he's like, this is just how it is. I can't do anything to change it. It's like, it's just being a kid when your parents' relationship sucks. There's nothing you can do. You can kind of just make sarcastic comments to get yourself through it, but he realistically knows that it's out of his control.
Mm-hmm. I think definitely that way, but that was a really fun question to answer.
Yes.
I love going into like Wendy dynamics.
Okay, speaking of Wendy, we have a kind of a similar question about her best friend Bebe. Where do you see a character like Bebe as an adult?
See, okay, the thing is, Bebe doesn't have too much of a personality outside girl and best friend of Wendy, but the thing is, I headcanon so much with her because maybe it's just the curly hair that I relate to. I don't know. I like that she has an interesting voice. There are a lot of things that I like about her. Her like special one-off episode, like Baby's Boobs Destroy Society, is like really fun. I love it when she's like going after Kyle's ass and shit, where she's like, he's got such a hot ass. I think her character's fun, but I like that she's kind of almost a blank slate, in which the fandom has kind of built her to kind of their own thing. You know, fandom Bebe is different than show Bebe, because she's actually like a lot more fleshed out in the fandom. Like, at least where I am, I know a lot of like popular headcanons is that she's a big, beautiful woman. She's got some curves and is super hot and kind of a slut, which I love. We love a liberated woman, especially a chunky bitch. Fellow chunky bitches unite. So I really like that she's kind of a blank slate in that way. In one way, it's lazy writing. In another, it's perfect fodder for me to make shit up without having to worry about it being out of character. But oh my gosh, dude, when I was like at my height of my Kyle and Bebe ship, like I loved it, because I always love putting like a bean pole with a chunky girl, and both of them have curly hair, so like that just made it even better. And I think with her headcanon personality, she'd be a really good foil for Kyle. So in my personal headcanon, they end up getting married with two boys, and she is a dancer. She's a dance instructor. Not like an exotic dancer. She probably could, but she had like a little dance studio. And she did like theater in high school, and she's chunky, but she's really talented with like movement and everything. And I could see her, you know, pursuing that. I know it's very oddly specific, but
that's what this channel is about.
I kind of really like that image. So I have a headcanon of her and Kyle dating for a while in high school, breaking up, and then they get back together. I have I had like this whole story about like their like wedding story, and it was kind of funny because thing is, she gets pregnant in my like headcanon. I wanted to write a story about it because I thought it was so funny. So she gets pregnant, and he's like, well, I guess I gotta marry you now, but I can't have my Jewish mother find out that we're having a child out of wedlock. But they want to have a traditional Jewish wedding where they have wine and everything, and she's like, well, shit, I can't drink wine while I'm pregnant. So they have like this convoluted scheme to like fake.
Oh, that's cute.
Like, I had a story planned out, and I never actually put it to paper, but it was like, I don't know why because it was when I was really into that ship, and I still like it. But apart from that, I could see her definitely as a mom. She'd be like the cool mom who's like, cheering on her kids and whatever. But I see her as a dancer. I would love for her to, like, own a dance studio, and she's always, like, super cute. Her makeup's always on point, and she's really pretty. And yeah, I love that.
I think I have a drastically different idea of Bebe, entirely because I don't ship her with Kyle. And you know this.
Yeah, no. Not a lot of people do. It was a very, like, it's kind of like a hidden ship, and it's really, like, the only straight ship that I'm, like, super into in South Park, so totally get it. Like, I'm way out in left field over there, so I'm sorry for anybody who's disappointed, but that's what I imagine.
I kind of imagine, well, I like her with Kenny. You already know this about me. But I feel like
they're best friends for life. They're like best friends and partial fuck buddies.
I like them because I've read a lot of fanfic of them, and it's usually them just both being like the town slut, and they're just like they're like best friends and like two peas in a pod. And I love the idea because in the boob episode, do you remember when she like wakes up and like her boobs are like plotting?
Yes.
So I don't know. I just love that like something so weird and supernatural also happened to her. So I feel like she would be much more willing to believe Kenny if she ever found out that like, oh, he says that he dies. I feel like, and then she would be kind of willing to believe that, and she would like share her story, and they really get close. And I think that they kind of have like a really intense and hot like sexual / romantic high school thing. I don't think they end up together though. I think that she gets older.
I really think they're like the perfect friends with benefits dynamic. Like they're just like, hey, I'm bored. Like they're just sitting home watching Netflix, like hanging out together, and it's just like, hey, I'm bored. You want to fuck? Like, yeah. It's like going to see a movie for them, or like getting a snack.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the main reason that it doesn't work out is, one, like, Kenny wants to stay in South Park and, like, protect his family. But also because Bebe's, like, a young woman, she wants to find her place in the world, and Kenny kind of already, like, knows who he is. And I always thought of Bebe as kind of, like, Wendy Light, where she's like, I don't know, she's like, kind of a feminist, but we're, like, in the boob episode, she, like, wants more for herself. She says, I want to be more than just my body. I want to have aspirations. But she's also very, like, quick to like succumb to trends and like peer pressure and things like that. She's also very interested in like shoes and fashion and like being a girl. So I could see her being a model or something. I could see her having something to do with shoes or fashion, things like that for her career. I definitely think that she ends up marrying Clyde though.
Really?
Yeah.
Clyde, I haven't thought of like any headcanons for him.
I just think of him as Bebe's husband.
He's a simp. Oh, that's interesting. I love that everybody, like, in our fandom knows that, like, Bebe is, like, the upper hand always, though. She's a dom bitch. And
it doesn't matter who she's with. She's got him by the balls.
Oh, basically. She's got them balls in, like, a chokehold.
But yeah, I really like this question. Ask us more questions about like niche characters like that.
Exactly, and again, like niche characters, it kind of makes sense that we would have two drastically like different ideas of her because she really, I hate saying that she doesn't have a personality because she does. She's just not explored very often. We don't know a lot of her picks in the show, so there are a lot of different interpretations. There are just like a couple things about her that have like persisted over time. But really, I love talking about characters that like we can just kind of create a whole story for.
I think it's definitely interesting because like for our Wendy headcanons, for example, or like talking about how Wendy would react, I feel like we do have some differences, but for the most part, we're kind of in agreement because Wendy's been fleshed out so much more, and we can like use more of her personality. Whereas it doesn't surprise me that our Bebe ones are different because, like you said, she's a blank slate, so we kind of just project our own shit onto her.
Exactly.
Okay, are you ready for the last question? This one's a doozy.
Last one. Can I? And I know what it is. I'm ready.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I don't want to get hate.
I do.
Oh yeah, let's fight.
Okay, so the last question is from Jack Lucas, who asked us if we had seen a video that was posted by Wicked Binge, and it was a South Park Good to Evil chart type video where they like rank all the characters in order of like most good and innocent and pure to like the most evil piece of shit. And I just love that this person, like, watched this video and was like, Rachel and Shirley are gonna have opinions about this, because we sure do.
Some thoughts. And we did. You know what's funny is when we first read this question, I hadn't seen the video before. Rachel had. But we were both, it had been a while, apparently, and we were like, well, let's look over it again to see, like, because I hadn't watched any of their videos. I've seen them advertised everywhere. I just don't care, because it's like a 45-minute long video. Ours are like the same length, but I don't have to go back and rewatch them, so okay. But the thing is, we were like, oh yeah, we'll probably be like really like neutral on it. It'll be, I don't know what else I can contribute to this. But after watching that, we've got some like opinions. We've got some thoughts there. Take it away.
We've got some opinions. Okay.
So with this question, like we said, we have some opinions. And, this isn't to send hate because, each to his own. People are going to have, like, different analyses of characters. But I felt like the consensus, the video itself was very surface level. It really was made by and for, like, casual watchers, because I think people who are over-devoted, like yours truly and Rachel, these were wrong. A lot of them were just straight up wrong. So if you don't know the setup of the video, it's a continuum, a spectrum of good being the one end and then evil being the other. And I'm pretty sure it is in a specific order. So it is kind of like in a chronological order of that span. So it is going exactly from each character from good to neutral to evil. And they ranked Butters as the most pure, which surface level, yes, I would agree. He's very innocent, but he's not always morally good. Sometimes he's morally ignorant on things. He doesn't quite know when things are good. I don't necessarily think like this is a wrong judgment or whatever, but the fact is, Kyle, who I think is one of the most morally good characters on the show, is almost in neutral territory, and I believe Wendy is in the more morally gray territory, which are two characters that if you look at them, they're always trying to do the right thing. Sometimes they take like very drastic actions, but they're always trying to benefit the minority and provide, justice in a way. So I feel like they're going based on action rather than general morality with this.
Yes, and I also feel like this list wasn't taking into account their entire character over the whole run of the show and their character growth and development. Like, definitely more recent Butters I would not put as the most innocent. Yeah. And Wendy, I think they said in the video, like, the whole reason they put Wendy as neutral is because of that one episode in, like, season 1 where she gets jealous of the teacher and, like, has her shot into the sun. It's like, well, one, you shoot a bitch into the sun one time, and suddenly you're like...
Suddenly you're a bitch.
Yeah. But I just think it was really unfair, because, like, that was Wendy, like, in the really, really beginning of the show before her character was even established, and I just feel like with who she is now, she's so clearly a good character. I don't know why she's in neutral.
See, I don't think modern day Wendy would really do something like that, like, at all. It's just kind of an exaggerated thing. So, again, like I said, I think this video is very surface level, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's perfectly fine for, like, a casual viewer to watch. But I think as somebody who, like, really, really enjoys South Park, I found myself going, like, oh, that's bullshit. Oh, that's wrong.
We literally were going through the list. We're like, wow, bad list.
Oh, basically. I know it's, not trying to, like, stir the pot or whatever, but we did agree on the very last two, on the very end of the spectrum, which, the evil characters...
hey, we're not there yet. We're still doing good.
Second to last is Mr. Garrison, which we 100% agree, and then the most evil is Cartman, which you kind of got to be stupid not to group him there. But most of them we just didn't agree on.
Yeah, I have a few additional complaints.
Oh, and the fact that Randy and Gerald was seen as a good character.
I know.
Was morally. I'm like, did you even watch season 20? And the thing is, like, even then, before then, he wasn't really good. You know, he's a lawyer. Like, and Randy, like, if you're going off of maybe like season 14 and lower, Randy, sure, he is like morally gray. But he, at no point has he ever been good. He is self-serving and kind of an idiot. You know, he doesn't do a lot to redeem himself. He's not like a Homer Simpson type.
Yeah.
Like old Homer Simpson. And
Randy is in neutral. And then, mind you, that Grandpa Marsh is in evil. What fucking world is Grandpa Marsh worse than Randy?
I know, right? But
what did Grandpa Marsh ever do?
To me, I think the list kind of nitpicks a couple of things and just goes probably based on, like, popular. Like, which popular. You know? Mm-hmm. If the character's popular, therefore it equates to good, you know?
Yeah. And there are a few other neutrals that I disagree with. Craig, I don't think should be in neutral. I think you should be in good. Just because you're, like, a rebellious little kid doesn't make you a bad person.
No, he's never done anything, like... Because the thing is, when you talk about who's good versus who's evil, I'm automatically going to assume your morals, not just your actions alone. You have to understand the reasoning behind every single action. You know, yeah, Wendy's beaten the shit out of Cartman, but it was in retaliation of him being awful, and she was sticking up for, you know, women. So she's, you know, she had a reason, and a valid one at that, so... And PC Principal and Strong Woman were both on the evil spectrum, which I think they were more morally gray than anything because they genuinely believed. I think it was really just kind of like, haha, we're anti-PC, so of course they're bad.
I think it was definitely just the reviewers' like personal dislike of them as characters. They're in no way evil characters.
I don't think they're evil. I think they've been used to like talk about exaggerations of things that like aren't really necessarily great, but I don't think they're evil characters in of themselves.
Right, and I mean the whole joke in the caricature is that like they like have good intentions, they want to make the world a better place, but the joke is kind of like the way they go about it is very exaggerated and things like that. But it's ugh. Oh, also I originally had issue with the fact that the goth kids were in evil, but then I remembered that they were literally like worshipping Cthulhu. I was like, oh yeah. I forgot about that.
So it's like, it's difficult to kind of separate yourself from them because it's like, it's not talking about badly written characters, it's talking about their actions. And I love the goth kids so much. So
me too.
For a second, I was like, oh wait, no, they actually do bad shit. Like I should be, you know, that is a fair judgment on the video's behalf.
Okay, can we talk about the final gag of this list, which is that Bebe is an evil for some reason?
I know, right? We just spent like forever talking about how Bebe is like a black plate. You're gonna take, like, at worst I see her as like morally gray. At worst, like she to me, like, people are like, oh well, she had like the gun. I'm like, that was more of like a gag kind of thing, you know. And literally, if you're gonna put her in there for that same reason, Stan has held a gun to Kyle before because he shit in the urinal, but you're gonna put Stan on the good boy list? Like, come on, like, that's such an unfair judgment of Bebe. Like,
yeah, and you're right about how this list really nitpicks. It kind of just, oh, this one specific gag in this episode makes her an evil person. Really? That gag makes her worse than Detective Yates and Butter's fucking dad? No, I don't think so.
I know, and to me, I'm like, sure, you can rank them and put them in that category, but the ranking, to me, was just way off for a lot of things. But this is coming from fans who are really, really precise, and we analyze a lot, and, you know, again, don't hate on this video or whatever. Like, we're like, it's always nice to kind of hear the opinion, but, you know, the entire time we were watching it, we were just like, bad list, bad, it's bad.
Yeah, literally. I mean, look, Wicked Binge has like 3,000 times more views than we get, and probably always will. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But for what it's worth, don't go over and send hate to their channel.
And likewise, please don't hate us. We just have opinions.
I think that they've got to be used to and even just liking our opinions by now if they stuck around this long.
Oh my god. Well, thank you guys so much for sending in questions because, like we mentioned before, this is our favorite thing to do.
Yes, thank you so much. Keep them coming.
Yeah, I love these headcanon ones. You know, we've done like all 4 of the boys. We've done a bunch of our girls. Like, keep them coming. I love this.
All right, well, thanks for listening, you guys. This is Rachel.
And this is Shirley.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Figuratively speaking, of course. Bye!
Bye-bye.